That's probably the only positives that Brian France has ever done. Let's see, if they focus a little bit more on safety, save drivers, save the lives of two drivers with the by implementing the Gen 5. The Gen 5 also had dramatic races too. It also raced really good. Had a photo finish between Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson at Martinsville in 2007. Had another three wide photo finish during the 2011 Aaron's 499 at Talladega. Yeah, the Gen 5 it's not all bad. I mean, most of its races produced mediocre single file racing, but not all of it. But not all of the races in the Gen 5 area were bad. 2011 was actually a great season for the Gen 5, aka the car of tomorrow. The 2008 Daytona 500. The 2008 Daytona 500. It was a good Daytona 500. It was a really good race. The 2010 Daytona 500 was good. Ended in 2 overtime attempts, getting Jamie McMurray an underdog win at Daytona. Giving Trevor Bayne an underdog win in 2011 by winning the 2011 Daytona 500. And again, it was literally stolen from another driver, and that was Regan Smith. And Regan Smith in 2011, he drove the legendary 6, which was once driven by Mark Martin from 1990 all the way up to 2006. Mark Martin piloted that number 6 by Roush Racing. And that car was once driven by Trevor Bayne in 2000, but by Regan Smith in 2011. The yellow flag. Did we mention the yellow line rule? Yellow line rule also implements on safety. Because back in the modern era at Daytona and Talladega, the yellow line rule didn't exist. Drivers were allowed to race in the apron at Daytona and Talladega. Ever since the July race at Daytona in 2001, the same race that Dale Earnhardt Jr. won, and the same track that took his father's life in 2001. That's when that rule was implemented, and it was not created by Brian France. It was created by Jim France. It was created by Bill France Jr., his father, the dad of Brian France. He was the one who created the yellow line rule. At Daytona and Talladega, the apron is out of bounds. You are not allowed to go below the yellow line to advance your position at plate tracks like Daytona and Talladega. Yes, that rule did create controversy and controversial moments. There was some instances where that rule didn't even matter. For instance, in the 2003 Aaron's 499 at Talladega, Dale Earnhardt Jr. passed Matt Kenseth below the yellow line to take the lead with 4 laps to go and entering turn 3, giving him that win. Continuing Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s dominance at Talladega, dominating street at the baddest track in the NASCAR circuit, Talladega Super Speedway, until it was once taken away from him in 2004. 2019. In 2019, drivers were passing below the yellow line, didn't get caught. But if another driver forces you below the yellow line, then the driver who forced you below the yellow line, he would get black flagged. He would get penalized. Once you go below that yellow line, you're gonna get black flagged. You're gonna get penalized. That's what happened. Yeah, sometimes it creates controversy. That's what happened to Carl Edwards in 2006 during the Bud Shootout at Daytona. Carl Edwards was literally avoiding an accident. He had no choice he had no choice but to merge out of traffic and back into the and back below the yellow line. And right soon as he merged back into traffic, right before his '99 car would merge back into traffic at Daytona, Carl Edwards would get black flagged for going below the yellow line, even though he was basically avoiding an accident. Because hadn't if Carl Edwards didn't go below the yellow line, and hadn't if he not merged out of traffic, his race car would have been torn up. He would, no joke, would have been in an accident at Daytona. Because two cars were literally spinning out of control right in front of, like 100 feet from him, and he was and Carl Edwards was heading straight towards them. He had no choice but to merge. He had no choice but to merge out of traffic, back below that yellow line, and avoid those two spinning cars before he merged back into traffic at Daytona. And yet, Carl Edwards got black flagged for going below the yellow line. That rule created street scrutiny, and that rule even cost drivers wins, like Regan Smith. He was going for an underdog win at Talladega in 2008. Regan Smith on the last lap in the last turn, going through the trioval at Talladega for the final time. Regan Smith actually merged below the line to pass Tony Stewart before merging. Then he merged back into traffic. And keep in mind that trioval at Talladega is 5 lanes right. That trioval is 5 lanes wide. And going into the start finish line, it merges back into 4 lanes, and drivers are forced to merge back into that other batch, and drivers are first to merge into the 4th lane. Well, Regan Smith, he went below the yellow line, and he took the checker flag, and he would win. But NASCAR didn't like that, so they took that win away from Regan Smith, and they black flagged him for going below the yellow line. And no doubt about it, would have been Regan Smith's underdog win at Talladega, because Talladega and Daytona, those tracks literally give younger drivers a chance to get into victory lane, and they had been. They have gotten underdogs in the victory lane for over a decade up to this point. And even in the 1990s, the 1990 Daytona 500, Derek Hope was an underdog driver, and he won. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Dale Earnhardt was literally had in that race in the bag until he blew a tire coming into turn 3 on the last lap, costing him the win in the 1990 Daytona 500, giving it to Derek Cope. The same year that one of my favorite NASCAR movies will come out, and that was Days of Thunder. The same year that Cole Trickle will shine at Days of Thunder, Derek Cope got his first Daytona win, an underdog victory. And keep in mind, the yellow line rule was not created by Brian France. It was implemented before Brian France. Brian France didn't become the CEO of NASCAR until 2003. And in 2001, that rule, in the July race at Daytona in 2001, that rule was implemented. That was way before. That was like a year. That was like a full season before Brian France. That was like a full season before Brian France took over as CEO. Bill France would continue to be CEO. Bill France Jr. He will continue to be CEO from all the way throughout the rest of 2001, all until September of 2003. And then Bill France Jr. would retire, and Brian France, and then his son would take over. Brian France. Brian France became the third generation CEO. And the first couple of decisions that he made focused more on safety. saved the lives of two drivers by creating the Gen 5, eliminating racing back to the line when the caution is displayed. Those are the two major things that Brian France did. Created more excitement in 2004 and 2005 by giving Auto Club Speedway a second date, by giving Texas Motor Speedway a second date. And this is not like the Texas that we have now, where the track is asymmetrical. This was the old school Texas Motor Speedway. Back when the banking were the same and it raced just like Charlotte and Atlanta. That was the old school Texas, from 1997 all the way to 2016. Then in 2017, the track will be reconfigured, and the Texas Motor Speedway will be asymmetrical. But it wasn't like that in 2005 when Bruton Smith was literally begging to give his track a second date. And NASCAR finally caved in 2005, giving Texas Motor Speedway its second date. And believe it or not, that second race at Texas was indeed a playoff race. It was in the playoffs, possibly in the round of 8 section. If you were to have the 16 driver format in 2005, Texas was scheduled to be in the round of 8. The second race in the round of 8 in the playoffs. But yep, Brian France is CEO. The early years that Brian France got elected. Since that Brian France won the election as CEO, he actually did some positive things, and he actually did save two drivers' lives by creating the Gen 5. But don't get me wrong here. That car is still terrible. That car had terrible design. Fans hated it. Drivers hated it. Kyle Busch even hated it when he raced in the very first Car Tomorrow race at Bristol in 2007. When he won that race at Bristol in 2007, and it was a photo finish too. 2007 Food City 500 at Bristol nearly ended in a photo finish. Kyle Busch literally said he hated that Gen 5. He hated the Car Tomorrow. The Car Tomorrow was not only hated, but it's not only despised and detested by drivers and fans. It was also the most dangerous. 2009, cars would literally go airborne. The spoiler in the Car Tomorrow, the spoiler that was used in the Gen 4, it was replaced by a wing, by a rear wing. The same wing that the GT cars used. The GT cars, the same cars that race in the infield at Daytona, the road course at Daytona, the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Car Tomorrow had that exact same wing. That part of the car was considered to be the most dangerous part. Because in 2009, when on the last lap of the Aaron's 499 at Talladega, car ever spun backwards. When his car went backwards, the roof flaps, they were still deployed. The roof flaps are designed to keep the car from going airborne when spinning backwards. But however, in the Car Tomorrow, when that rear wing was introduced, Carl Edwards 99, his trunk slightly opened, creating wind resistance into the car, lifting up the rear tires of Carl Edwards' car, sending that car airborne, and sailing into the catch fence.
reenacting the same crash that Bobby Allison suffered in 1987.